Typhoons in the Philippines are considered major weather hazard occurrences. A year ago, in June 20 and 21, 2008, what was considered a normal weather situation turned out to be a super typhoon. Locally codenamed Frank, the international code of which was Feng Shen, hit the country and left a heavy toll on the lives, properties, livelihood and businesses of the people and government infrastructures in Region 6 and 8. The agriculture and the environment sectors suffered much as well. In Region 6, or the Western Visayas region, the flood brought about by Typhoon Frank was the worst to hit the island of Panay in recorded history. The provinces of Aklan, Antique, Capiz, and Iloilo, comprising the Panay Island, were extremely devastated, including parts of the surrounding provinces of Negros Occidental and Guimaras. The Regional Disaster Coordinating Council reported that at the height of the disaster, 53,377 families or 306,535 individuals overfilled the various evacuation centers. Death count reached 645, including the 330 who remained missing a month after the typhoon catastrophe, and another 2,555 suffered a variety of injuries. A number of people were rendered homeless, as 45,099 houses were totally destroyed and 140,348 more were partly damaged. Moreover, the consolidated estimate of damages to infrastructure soared to 6 billion pesos, while that of the environment sector amounted to more than 161 million pesos, citing only the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or the DENR projects. The damages to agriculture summed up to 2 billion pesos. An approximation of the overall damage was pegged at 14 billion pesos. While emergency response actions were initiated by all sectors in coordination with the disaster coordinating councils at all levels, the subsequent rehabilitation work, which calls for a more purposive planning and implementation of reconstruction projects that will more or less restore critical infrastructure and socio-economic activities, is immense and possess a challenge in coordination and management. On July 25, 2008, President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo issued Administrative Order No. 230 creating a task force for an integrated rehabilitation and restoration program in the island of Panay. The creation of the Panay Island Rehabilitation and Restoration Task Force, otherwise named as Task Force Bangon Panay, was brought about by the need for a well-coordinated and efficient planning, implementation, and monitoring of rehabilitation and reconstruction efforts. Assistant Secretary Raul N. Banyas, Presidential Assistant for Western Visayas, was designated Executive Director. The honorable members of the Congress, headed by Speaker Prospero C. Nograles and Congressman Arthur D. Defensor as principal sponsors, together with all the congressmen and congresswomen from Western Visayas, introduced a House bill appropriating an amount for the implementation of relief operations, reconstruction and rehabilitation of the provinces of Iloilo, Aklan, Capiz, Antique, and Iloilo City, all in the island of Panay, and Bacolod City, and the provinces of Negros Occidental and Guimaras, which suffered devastation brought about by Typhoon Frank. The proposed sum for appropriation is named Paglaom Fund. Much hope is pinned on this House bill in Congress so the enormous rehabilitation work could be done. Soon after the issuance of the administrative order and the introduction of the House bill, the Office of the Presidential Assistant for Western Visayas, with the assistance of the Regional Disaster Coordinating Council, headed by Police Chief Superintendent Isagani Cuevas and Vice Chair Regional Director Rosario T. Cabrera of OCD, in coordination with NGOs, POs, and other concerned sectors, conducted consultation and orientation meetings with the local government units and concerned agencies for the development of the reconstruction and rehabilitation plan for funding through the Paglaom Fund. The civil society groups with programs directly involved in rehabilitation efforts were engaged by the task force in planning, particularly those in the shelter and environment sectors. The entire rehabilitation plan is presented in the subsequent section by sectors, namely agriculture and fisheries, health, water and sanitation, education, shelter and livelihood, infrastructure, and environment. The rehabilitation plan for the agriculture and fisheries sector, with a proposed budget of over 400 million pesos, generally aims to ensure food security to cope with the damages, losses caused by the typhoon calamity through the provision of direct assistance and other support services such as seed stocks subsidies, fertilizer subsidies, irrigation and extension for identified commodity sectors, fields such as rice, corn, livestock and poultry, high-value commercial crops and vegetables, coconut and abaca. The rehabilitation plan also included the repair and reconstruction of damaged agriculture facilities. The Agriculture and Fisheries Rehabilitation Plan will be implemented by the Department of Agriculture, Regional Field Unit 6 as the lead agency in proper and close coordination with the LGUs and with the task force Bangon Panay. On health, water, and sanitation, the rehabilitation plan is primarily aimed to restore considerably, if not fully, the delivery of health services through the district hospitals and health stations and ensure water safety. A total of close to 280 million pesos is proposed under this sector, with the Department of Health as lead agency in coordination with the LGUs and the Department of Public Works and Highways for the infrastructure projects. The proposed allocation for this sector is minimal, since health is an immediate concern that must be attended to at the time of calamity. LGUs had been and are still responding to the health needs of their typhoon-affected constituents in coordination with support organizations like the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office, Department of Health, and the civil society groups for medicines, especially during the conduct of medical missions. Two major activities are proposed in the rehabilitation plan for the education sector: repair or construction of damaged school buildings and procurement of equipment, furniture, and textbooks. The rehabilitation programs and projects amounted to over 500 million pesos. The Department of Social Welfare and Development Region 6 is leading the rehabilitation work of the shelter and livelihood sector that will include primarily relocation and shelter for affected families with totally damaged houses and provision of livelihood training and financial assistance. The shelter component will be undertaken in partnership with government housing agencies and non-government organizations like the Gawad Kalinga and Habitat for Humanity, among others. Earmarked for this plan is pegged at 452 million pesos, with a counterpart from the LGUs for land acquisition. Relative to the damages, infrastructure composed the bulk of reconstruction and rehabilitation work. It accounts for 74% of the proposed budgetary requirements in the plan to include repair and rehabilitation of roads and bridges and other government office buildings, structures, as well as repair, rehabilitation, construction of river, flood control structures, dredging, rechanneling, and drainage systems. These projects are being implemented by the Department of Public Works and Highways in coordination with the LGUs and concerned sectors. The proposed environment rehabilitation programs consists of forest development reforestation, community-based forestry program, watershed rehabilitation, retooling, mangrove rehabilitation, protected area restoration, and capability upgrading for disaster mitigation and preparedness. Environmental rehabilitation is being implemented by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources in coordination with the LGUs and NGOs working in this sector. A capability upgrading program will also be implemented for the Regional Disaster Coordinating Council, especially for the 6 Provincial Disaster Coordinating Councils and the 2 highly urbanized city disaster coordinating councils. Like the proverbial thief in the night, a disaster occurs when you least expect it. Lives and properties are lost when nature unleashes its fury upon unsuspecting communities. The Typhoon Frank experience would always leave a painful mark in the lives of every Ilonggos. But there are lessons learned, and as we look back into this tragic event, we can also take pride in our resiliency as we look forward for a brighter tomorrow, that in working together, giving our share for the rehabilitation and reconstruction program of our community, we can definitely rise above this experience.
Philippines is On the average, 19 tropical cyclones passes through the Philippine area of responsibility annually. So the Philippines, due to its geographical location, is prone to flooding.
Yung Region 8 is nandoon siya sa typhoon belt actually. Siya madalas tinatamaan ng bagyo. So very important yung meron kang warning system bago tamaan ng bagyo para sa preparation sa mga floods as well as pati na rin doon sa lakas ng hangin.
So GDZ stands for German Agency for International Cooperation, and we are here since more than 30 years to assist the Philippine government and the Philippine people to promote their own development programs. It is because of the disaster which happened some years ago in San Bernard, where more than 1,000 people died. Actually, that was the beginning of our engagement in disaster risk management. We found that by being anyhow assisting the Leyte island to develop, it was our duty to also assist in disaster risk management. And a lot of people are living actually along the coastal lines in these plains, and if they can be warned ahead of time that a flood is coming, that gives them ample time for saving their goods, their animals, or even themselves. And for this we are doing preparedness, disaster preparedness plans with municipalities and barangays, those which are heavily affected in the past time by floods.
DTZ supports a lot of different activities in Region 8, all concerning disaster risk management handled by our component. And one of them is flood earliest warning systems, evacuation center improvement, integrating disaster risk management into the local planning processes, hazard maps, preparation of vulnerability maps, and so on. So it's quite a lot, and our office is mostly organizing this support for the LGUs.
The commitments of the province is basically to sew up all the commitments of all the municipalities that are involved in this watershed early warning system.
The early warning system in the province of Leyte really helped the communities because prior to that, way back 2006, the experience in Ormoc and Isaogon, the municipalities of Paulo encountered human casualty. But after the installation and the activation of the early warning system, I'm proud to say that after several experiences we had in terms of flooding, there was zero casualty in terms of human casualty.
So sa ngayon, nakag-install ng radio through GTZ. Yesterday, na-install namin yon. Hopefully, magiging maganda yung communication line namin from Tingib, Tanawan, Paloan, Opsen Center.
You can see here the river coming from the mountains going to the ocean, and in red you see here the flood-prone area which is stretching down here in the plains. Up here in the top area we have measuring devices which are a water level gauge and a rain gauge, and they are transmitted by radio signals to the operation center in Palo, quite far away. In the operation center the decision is made to evacuate, and that is communicated to the four municipalities Pastrana, Dagami, Palo and Tanawan. From the municipal halls the warning is distributed to all the concerned barangays, that is symbolized here. From the barangays it is then communicated to the households, which you can see here with a bell. From the households, the people have to evacuate outside of the flood-prone area to evacuation centers, and that is symbolized here.
The design is truly an innovation. Everything was simplified from a complex system. The sensors are designed locally and fabricated locally. I designed the fuse with 5 things in mind. First, it must be standalone. Must have its own intelligence. It must be sustainable in terms of low cost, and must require the least maintenance cost for the LGUs. It must be long range. Data could be sent over a long distance, and must be ruggedized for all weather application.
marami pa tayong mabe-benefits dito, kagaya ng mga datang makukuha sa kanya. So, paano ba natin isusustain to? One way to sustain a community base is to have an operation center. Pangalawa, we can sustain a CB Fuse kung meron tayong organizational structure ng mga different operation centers within the country. Kasi this is one way of having a communication between the various operation center.
Ang taga GTC naghataghamonhin capability building, partihan inin flood yung ginaano mga measures. So igulaliwat ito nga nahanabo, ready na gud kami.
Nung dumating yung rain gauge na yan, naging scientifico yung pag-determine kung ano na yung level ng water at saka magkakaroon na ng pag-anunsyo na lumikas na yung mga tao sa bahay.
I think we had made a big step in making people feel safe in every time there is an impending typhoon coming in their areas. So I probably we're still in a long way to really making people resilient, but I think the early warning system has contributed in making people now to be more aware, informed ahead of time.
With the help of the German technical cooperation, the province of Leyte was really able to meet disaster in terms of flooding. We are very much thankful in behalf of the province of Leyte, very much thankful to the German technical cooperation for helping us develop this flood early warning system in the province as well as in the region.